Racism, an unseen enemy, has been a persistent plague on humanity, distorting perceptions and fostering unnecessary divisions. This insidious force, born out of ignorance and fear, has wreaked havoc on societies and individuals alike, robbing them of peace, unity, and progress. It's a complex issue, deeply rooted in our history, and to fully grasp its impact, we must trace back to its beginnings. To truly understand this societal disease, we delve into the story of a man named John Punch, whose life marks the beginning of legally sanctioned racism. In the early 17th century, a man named John Punch arrived on American shores, a journey that would inadvertently change the course of history. John Punch wasn't a man of wealth or high status. He was an indentured servant. For those unfamiliar with the term, indentured servitude was a system of labor prevalent in the New World. People like John Punch would sign a contract, or indenture, agreeing to work for a certain number of years in exchange for passage to America. It was a harsh life, filled with backbreaking work and long hours. John Punch, like many others, saw this as a chance for a new beginning, an opportunity to eventually earn his freedom and carve out a life in this new land. He worked diligently, upheld his part of the bargain, living each day with the hope of a brighter future. Little did he know, his life would soon take a turn that would echo through the annals of time. In 1640, driven by the desire for freedom, John Punch and two other indentured servants made a daring escape. They were bound by the shackles of servitude, their lives dictated by the whims of their masters. The yearning for liberty was so intense it could not be contained. They risked it all, their lives and their futures, on the faint hope of a life beyond the horizon. Their escape was not a spur-of-the-moment decision. It was a calculated risk, a desperate bid for freedom. They knew the dangers, yet they chose to face them head-on. And for a while it seemed like they had made it. They tasted freedom, if only fleetingly. But fate had other plans. Their dreams were crushed when they were recaptured. The consequences were dire and the punishment severe. But it was not just their lives that were forever altered. Their recapture was a turning point, not just for them, but for millions yet unborn. The court's verdict for the three men was about to lay the foundation for a disturbing societal norm. In the year 1640, the Court of Virginia was faced with a decision that would unknowingly shape centuries to come. Three men stood before the judge, guilty of the same crime, but their punishments would be far from equal. Among them was John Punch, an African laborer who, alongside his companions, had attempted to escape their servitude. The court's decision was swift and unmerciful. Punch was sentenced to servitude for life, while his fellow escapees, both Caucasians, were handed a far lesser sentence. The court extended their indentured servitude by a mere 3 years, and additionally they were required to serve the colony for an extra 4 years. This discrepancy in sentencing was not based on the severity of their crime, nor their previous conduct. Rather, it was a decision influenced by the color of their skin. The court, whether consciously or subconsciously, had allowed racial bias to cloud their judgment, resulting in an unjust verdict. John Punch was not merely sentenced to a lifetime of servitude. He was sentenced to a lifetime of inequality, a lifetime of prejudice, a lifetime of being seen as less than human. This was not justice. This was the birth of institutionalized racism. The court's decision that day did more than just determine the fate of three men. It laid the groundwork for a systemic practice of racial bias that would persist for centuries. It was a decision that would echo through the halls of justice for generations, shaping the lives of countless individuals who, like John Punch, would be judged not by their actions, but by the color of their skin. This was the first legal sanctioning of lifelong servitude based on skin color, setting a dangerous precedent. A precedent that would cast a long and dark shadow over the annals of history. A precedent that we continue to grapple with in our quest for equality and justice. John Punch's story marks the birth of legally enforced racism, a societal disease that would continue to spread. With the ruling against Punch, a precedent was set. A precedent that would taint the fabric of society, setting in motion the gears of institutionalized racism. Let's put this into context. John Punch was an indentured servant, not a slave. The difference lies in the expected duration of servitude. Indentured servants were bound to their masters for a set period, usually 7 years. After serving their term, they were free. But the ruling against Punch changed the game. He was sentenced to a lifetime of servitude solely based on the color of his skin. This ruling, a first of its kind, laid the groundwork for the development of slavery in America. It was the birth of a system that judged individuals not by their actions or character, but by the shade of their complexion. This system, this institutionalized racism, was perpetuated and justified through laws and societal norms, and it would continue to spread, like a wildfire through dry grass. In the years that followed, laws were passed that solidified the status of people of African descent as slaves. These laws, called slave codes, were designed to control, dehumanize, and discriminate. They were a stark manifestation of racism, legally enforced and socially accepted. As the decades rolled into centuries, this system of racism became deeply ingrained in American society. The legacy of John Punch's ruling rippled through time, its effects felt even today. From segregation to racial profiling, from hate crimes to systemic discrimination, the roots of these issues can be traced back to that fateful ruling. Punch's story serves as a stark reminder of the roots of racism, a legacy that we still grapple with today. It's a reminder that racism is not an inherent human trait, but a construct, a societal disease that was born out of a single ruling and allowed to spread unchecked. The echoes of John Punch's story reverberate through history, reminding us of the long and painful battle against racism. His narrative, while a relic of the 17th century, continues to resonate, not as a distant echo, but as a booming sound that continues to shape our world today. Racism, this unseen enemy, still lingers in many corners of our society. Its effects are not just relics of the past, but palpable realities of the present. It continues to shape the lives of millions, dictating where they live, the opportunities they have, and the way they are treated by others. Yet it's not all gloom and doom. There's a silver lining to this cloud. Today, we are more aware than ever of the destructive power of racial prejudice. We understand its corrosive effects on people's lives and communities, and the urgent need to uproot it from our societies. Education is one of our most potent weapons in this struggle. By learning about the experiences of people like John Punch, we can develop a deeper understanding of the roots and repercussions of racism. This knowledge is not just about understanding the past, but about shaping our present and future. It helps us to recognize the insidious ways in which racism operates, and equips us with the tools to challenge and dismantle it. We also need to foster a culture of empathy and understanding. To combat racism, we must strive to understand and appreciate the diverse experiences and perspectives that make up our world. We must reject the simplistic stereotypes and prejudices that foster division, and embrace the complex, rich tapestry of human experience. In the face of racism, silence is complicity. We have a responsibility to speak out against racial prejudice, to stand in solidarity with those who are its victims, and to work towards a more inclusive and equitable society. As we remember John Punch, let us also remember our responsibility to challenge and eradicate racism. His story is not just a testament to the past, but a call to action for the present and future. Now, more than ever, it is crucial that we engage in conversations about racism and take decisive action against it. The story of John Punch is not just a tale from the distant past, but a stark reminder of the roots of racial discrimination and how it has continually shaped societies across the globe. The echoes of history are loud and clear, and they call us to a duty to educate ourselves, to familiarize ourselves with the stories of those who have suffered, and to recognize the systemic injustices that perpetuate even today. It isn't enough to just know. We must engage, we must discuss, we must challenge the status quo. But how do we do this? It starts with you. It starts with acknowledging that racism is real. It starts with challenging our own biases. It starts with standing up against discrimination in our daily lives, no matter how small or insignificant it may seem. We must remember that every voice matters. Every action counts. Whether you're standing up for a colleague at work, challenging a racist remark in a social setting, or educating your peers about the historical roots of racism, you're contributing to change. This journey towards a more inclusive world isn't a sprint, it's a marathon. A marathon we must all run together. Join the conversation. Comment below, subscribe for more content, and share this video to spread awareness. Together, we can make a difference.